right, so we're going back to the old podcast tradition of having to apologize at the start of every episode.
Speak for your damn self.
So I have a couple things to apologize for. So first is I said Ben Savage instead of Fred Savage.
I mean, you did have a solidly good reason.
Yes, we have been watching a staggering amount of Boy Meets World. It's been binged.
Shamelessly.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm proud of it.
It's just all we watch, really. Like, we watched it for the last month and a half.
Yeah, and will continue. So, Anyway. So, it was Fred Savage.
It is Fred Savage with the mole in Austin Powers.
Yeah.
And that's my bad.
Yeah.
I just had Ben Savage on the brain because that's the most recent one I saw.
So now we should do like a Ben Savage movie if there is one that exists. Who knows? Just to kind of like, repay,
balance. Yeah,
pay for our sins kind of thing. I just don't know if there is one.
Second thing I said one of my comedians that I like is transvestite, and I was referencing Eddie Izzard, and I'm sorry if that came off insensitive.
Yeah, it apparently did. You got tweeted that it came off as insensitive.
Well, I think
you were just stating a fact.
I was stating a fact, and he does a sketch where he talks about a sketch about being a transvestite and being a normal person like that. So that's just, I don't think anything differently based on that. That's just people.
No, it's just a fact.
People are people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Regardless, I'm sorry if it came out the wrong way.
Yeah. So anyway, now that you've paid for your sins, let's add some more to the list. All right. So This week's movie you chose.
My choice. It's going to be Becky.
Yes. So I'm Shay.
I'm Tyler.
This is Cinematically Correct. And this was our current movie that we technically should have been doing in June, but it got pushed to July for all the reasons and whatever. So now we're in July, and it's going to be July's current movie, and that's what it is. So
just deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. So, Becky, first of all, how did you just come across this, decide to do this,
You showed me a trailer.
Me? No. Yeah. No, I didn't come across this crazy movie. No.
Yeah, you did.
Damn. I was hoping you were going to be like, so I found it when I was going down a rabbit hole and get me off scot-free is what I was hoping for.
No, it's entirely your fault.
Yeah. Okay. So should we, before we really dive into the movie that this is, should we do a beer? You're excited for this beer.
I am excited for this beer.
And you cheated. So let's let the podcast know you cheated. Let's let them know.
How is that cheating? I chose Beck's because the title character is Becky. And it's also a German beer. And there were a lot of Nazis in this movie.
Yeah. So I would like to let everybody know that I was manipulated into allowing this. So he's supposed to be picking beers that he's never tried before. This is a way for him to try beers that he wouldn't necessarily try otherwise. And that's why we agreed to this whole little shtick. But he sent me the choices, which he always does, and then said, but I'll let you know what my favorite is. And which he never does. He always usually waits for my opinion. Yeah. So I thought, he's going to pick one. That's fine. And I wasn't informed that he'd already had it before until he got home. So, I was manipulated. I am sorry.
It's a nice, crisp German lager, so I'm going to give it like a 3.75, 4.
Can you rate a beer you've already had? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice and crisp.
Yeah. How many of them did you buy?
Well, it only came in 6 packs.
Oh, yeah. Gee, I mean, normally in these situations we only buy one beer, but it only came in a 6-pack, so.
That's such a shame.
Dang.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't worry. We'll make sure he makes up for it next week with his beer choice.
I'm not looking forward to next week's beer choice. You're going to go out of your way to find the worst possible one.
Yes, I am. Oh. Okay. So, would you like to do a brief synopsis?
Okay. Brief synopsis.
Brief synopsis.
Family goes on vacation and is attacked by neo-Nazis, and it's basically Home Alone, but with real consequences for the pranks.
Yeah. So Home Alone, but with murder is basically what this comes down to.
Basically.
Okay. So let's get into the characters. Lulu Wilson plays Becky. Now, she is new to me. I don't know her from anything. I know she has quite a long list of things she's been in. She was a child actress. Some of the things on her IMDb include Annabelle. Creation, Haunting at Hill House, Sharp Objects, Ouija Origin, I guess.
I don't know if I've ever seen her in anything, honestly, even though she has that many things on her resume.
Yeah, I have not. So if you guys know her and she's an actress you enjoy and there's something you think we should watch, definitely let me know. I've never seen, this is my first time seeing her. So she plays a angsty teenager who has lost her mom.
Yep.
And her father is remarrying, and she is just basically really upset about him remarrying, about losing her mom, about just being a teenager, and ends up becoming a raging psychopathic killer, basically.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah? I mean, do you have anything you want to add to her?
No, I mean, that's basically the one-dimensional person that she's not a
there's not a lot
fully-fleshed
to her
character. There's not really anything more than I'm angry with the world, so I'm going to kill everybody.
Basically, yeah. That's basically, that's what I got. Okay, so Kevin James plays Dominic.
Yes.
He is a neo-Nazi cult leader, I guess we can call him.
So I think he's part of the Arian Brotherhood, which is the Nazi prison gang group, which are terrible.
Okay.
But yeah, he's kind of like a shot caller person that's higher up in the organization, and he's the planner and the schemer, and he's a horrible person.
Yeah. So this is his first dramatic role. So, I mean, I think everybody knows Kevin James, King of Queens. Is that what he's
King
from?
of Queens,
okay, so I want to make sure
Paul Blart. He's
a comedian, is basically what I think of him as.
Exactly. He's always the person that you either feel bad for because he sucks but doesn't know it, or just like he brings levity to everything.
Yeah. So that was actually kind of why I was interested to see this, was to see him in a dramatic role. And I mean, I will say he wasn't bad in a dramatic role. I think the tattoos really kind of aided him in looking scary and horrible.
So I had a very difficult time seeing him for anything other than the affable postal delivery guy or UPS driver from King of Queens.
Really?
Like, I struggled very much to get through that. But he did very well. I mean, the acting was on point. It was kind of being typecast in my mind a little bit.
See, I didn't really struggle with that so much, just because I think the tattoos were off-putting for me, and then I think also the fact that he didn't have a lot of lines to really like give himself, too much where you're reading into what he was saying or anything. It was very like short and to the point. Yeah. So I think they didn't give me a lot to kind of question him on, I guess.
I mean, the tattoos definitely did help in that regard, and then also the full-on beard and shaved head. It's just
and to clarify, I love beards, so that does not terrify me. There's nothing scary about beards.
No, it's a different look than he normally has, where he's usually clean-shaven. And
yes, that is true.
He's actually my Lord of the Rings reference.
Okay, what are we going to do? Play ping pong here? How?
So he was in 51st Dates with Sean Astin, who was in Lord of the Rings. Done.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll give that to you. I thought it was going to be a lot more of a bouncy.
One connection.
I'm proud of you. Okay. All right, so Joel McHale. Now, I love him from, for some reason, I still stick to The Soup, which nobody has seen, apparently, because every time I bring it up.
How has no one seen The Soup? But
every time I bring up The Soup, they're like, what? I'm like, Joel McHale, The Soup. But anyway, that's what I think of him from, but also Community. Which
is the other one.
We started binging, and then I don't know what happened, but I love him. I adore him. He, again, though, is a comedian. I don't picture him in serious roles. I didn't see that this was his first dramatic role, so he may have done others previously. I have not seen them personally. But I think he did okay. Like, I didn't see anything horrible in that.
I mean, there's no complaints. I mean, they did a fine job transitioning away from their strong point, which is comedy and sarcasm. But, it's fine.
I did expect a sarcastic remark at some point during, like, I was waiting for it, especially when he was being tortured. I was like, okay, he's going to drop one of those, like, sarcastic bombs.
It's going to be an epic go to hell kind of sarcastic.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know why they didn't, because like that, I still would have been just as, invested in it, and I would have been like more on his side. It would, you know what I mean?
Missed opportunity there. Yeah. Like, just definitely, you dropped the ball, people.
Yeah. He is actually my Gilmore Girls reference. So
figured.
Why? Because I like him?
Well, I just figured that he was going to be the reference.
Yeah, he was. So he was in Happy Time Murders, which we have still not seen, with Melissa McCarthy, who is Suki from Gilmore Girls. So, nobody can complain that I was doing a ping pong, because I know some people do that sometimes with me.
Well, she said Grapes of Wrath in one episode, which is the worst, weakest connection ever.
Hey, that's part of the reason I wanted to do the connections, because they talk about a lot of things. But anyway, that one was a solid connection. So, nobody can come for me. Anyway, the rest of the people in this are, we will be talking about some of the other characters, but I don't necessarily think that all of the actors need to be discussed, because they're all ancillary characters and their outside stuff didn't influence me in any way.
Right. The only other person that gets any significant screen time is Robert Mallet.
Yeah, who plays Apex. That man is a brick house.
He is huge. He's billed at 6'11" or 7 feet tall. He's been in 300, Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr.
Was he the big guy in 300?
He was the big guy with all the ugly stuff on his face. Not the king, but one of the big guys that fights.
I was going to say, because the king is related to somebody that I know. No. So, I was like, whoa.
No,
full circle
not
here.
that person.
Okay, so anyway. We've got just weird things to talk about here. This is a strange movie. So
it definitely is.
If you guys haven't seen it, I recommend watching it because it's weird. Anyway, the first thing I wanted to what?
Let's go.
You gave me a weird face. Anyway, sorry guys. The first thing I wanted to talk about was we talked about last week with Uncle Buck about the angsty teen trope, and here we are in 2020 where we're still doing the angsty teen trope, and normally I don't mind it, but again, I minded it. So am I getting too old? I don't know what's going on.
I think you are getting to that point where you're starting to get off my lawn.
It could totally be that, but I want to give my opinion, and then I know yours is different. So with her, the reason that I didn't really like her angsty teen trope is it didn't seem to break even with her father. I could understand if they showed it predominantly when the new woman came into the life and the new child and the angst feeling like my father moved on too quickly, which, side note, he did. Yeah. And, really kind of playing it up there. But even at the beginning of the movie where she was alone with her father and she didn't even know about any of that, it didn't break. It was just constant anger and angst, and there was nothing else to her. They didn't give her any dynamic anything, and even throughout the movie she doesn't develop. If anything, she devolves. Right. So that, I don't know, I do think that's one of the failings of this movie, where they didn't do any of the establishment of the person's character, so they were just all one-dimensional, right, across the board. If there was a little bit more substance there in terms of maybe starting off sooner or giving more context before the home kidnapping, right, then it would have been more impactful. I will excuse her moodiness and angst, given the fact that her mother did just die, and her father is marrying a new person the next day, it seemed like in the movie. It was in under a year. Yeah, it was really quick, which they should have done a better job establishing a better timeline. Yeah. But I will excuse that, which is way more deserving of being angsty and pissed off at the world than moving to a new city. Yeah. I mean, I will give you that. The Tia situation from Uncle Buck, she was outrageously rude for no discernible reason. It was like the spiteful, hates everything, rich, entitled white girl. It's the I'm going to be mad at the world because I can, and you're just going to have to deal with my garbage. Yeah. Now, I think with this one, I would have felt a little bit differently if they gave me a little bit more of her with her mother, which they did give flashbacks, and there was some there. And it did show that she was singing to her mom and stuff like that, so you could tell that she probably had a good relationship with her mom. But beyond those tiny moments, you don't see anything. So you don't know did she have a good relationship with her mom only when she was dying? Was there something that made her upset, that made her feel maybe her last moments with her mom was something that she wasn't proud of? Or did she have trouble with her father outside of her mother, and maybe they never had a good relationship? There was nothing. We don't know anything. So it was just kind of okay, so her mom died and now she hates everybody and everything and she's going to become a psychopathic killer. I can't make that leap. Right. And then also the dogs were just thrown in there.
if you had done a little bit better job establishing her training the dogs or having something thrown in there, it just seemed kind of forced. Like, we're putting in dogs to put in dogs. Yeah.
Well, so you jumped points, but we'll go on with what you said. So dogs. So now I'm going to talk about both dog violence as well as just violence in general in this movie because it was a very violent movie. So if you guys don't like gore, do not watch this movie. Like, just...
So it's not on the same level as Saw, but it's not exactly the same sit-down experience either. You're not going into Saw expecting a happy movie.
No, and I do not like gore for the sake of gore. I don't. However, I liked Saw because Saw had a reason. There might not have been a good reason. It could have been a psychopathic reason. You can believe what you want to believe. Right. But there was a purpose. It furthered the plot. In this movie, we'll start with the dog violence. I will put my foot down and say that did not further the plot. Now, I know that people will argue to say that killing her dog was one of the catalysts for why she turned into the way she was. And don't get me wrong, if someone killed my dog, I would become very angry. But they did not need to show that dog shot and killed on camera. That did not need to happen. I did not need to see a dog dead body. Didn't need to see it. Yeah. Like,
I mean, later on in the movie, spoilers, her dad gets shot. So that's enough justification to kill everybody.
Right.
Like, burn it all down.
Right. And now, I don't want to split hairs here, but it's also the dog that got killed was not her dog that she's seen with the entire movie. The dog that's clearly her protector, the dog that she's closest to. It wasn't that dog. Now, I'm not saying that you love one dog more than the other or anything like that, but it felt just not needed. It felt like it was just thrown in there to kind of make them look evil. Because I remember in one of the movies we watched, they said that...
Snatch.
They
which
said
you also hated.
Yeah, I did. But they said that you kill an animal on screen to make the person look absolutely vile. Right. Which, fair, but they didn't even have Kevin James do it. They had the goons who... They were almost like you almost felt bad for them. It was a
throwaway, like, henchman type... Like, from the superhero universe, it's the guy that helps Joker or helps the Penguin or helps any of the actual villains. It's not someone you care about.
Right, like, we're not invested in them. We don't need them to look absolutely vile. They're henchmen. We don't like them for the fact that they're henchmen. Like,
right, it's like the Austin Powers where they make fun of the henchmen and they knock out all of the henchmen because they're just extra don't matter people.
Right. It was just... It didn't further the plot for me. No. It only made me angry. And honestly, at that point in the movie, I almost decided to turn off the movie. Because I'm like, no, if this is the type of movie I'm watching, I'm all set. Thank you. I do not care. No, I'm good. And just to further, along with the gore side of things, there are parts in the movie that we can say further the plot if you want to, but didn't need to go as far as they did. So the main scene I'm thinking of is when Kevin James loses his eye. Now, I know that you have more to talk about in the History Minute about that, so we won't go into the significance of it, but I will say that regardless of significance, nobody needed to see the eye hanging out of the socket and then him cutting at the nerves or veins or whatever. Nobody needed to see that. That did not further the plot. It did not. It was shock value and only shock value.
Yeah. It was the optic nerve and it was hanging out of his head.
Yeah, it was
just
horrifying. No.
I mean, there are a couple other scenes that were just less egregious than that. The boat propeller scene, the ruler scene.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, those were fine. I didn't have a problem with those.
I actually didn't... So those, for if you haven't seen the movie, were murders. That was how she killed the henchman. To me, that had to happen. She had to be killing those people to become the one who killed everybody. Yeah. So, okay, like, didn't need to happen that way, but it wasn't as gory as the other things we mentioned.
Right. I mean, Kevin James' head gets chopped by a lawnmower at the end of the movie.
That is true.
So, I mean, there was violence in it, but nothing was as unnecessary as some of the stuff that they showed. It was kind of thrown in there just to throw it in there to add a little bit extra blood and gore.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I'm still nauseous thinking about it. Anyway, so one of the things we skipped over is Simon Pegg was actually originally intended to play Kevin James. And I was curious what you thought of that, given that Simon Pegg is also, from what I know, a comedic actor.
Well, he does he does mostly comedy movies, but he does have the ability to have that deadpan tone.
Yeah.
Where it's comedic, but he's sounding serious. So Shaun of the Dead is the perfect example where he just, all right, this is what we do.
But wouldn't you find it hard to take him seriously because of that? Because even when he's being serious, you're going to be expecting a punchline?
I would, yeah. I also don't see him as the type of person that's going to prison and getting all tatted up.
No, I don't. So
I don't see that as
he's a little dude, right? He's little.
I also don't see that of Kevin James either, but I mean, more so than Simon Pegg.
I can't even picture Simon Pegg like as a prison like head honcho. Can't. I feel like I would laugh. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would need to see it, but and then you also said that he has an accent.
He does have an accent. He does have an English accent because he's an English actor, and that would have kind of thrown off the hardened American prison system inmate from federal prison.
Unless he has a spectacular American accent, which
right.
I would not put past him because he's a spectacular actor. So
Simon Pegg, let's hear it.
Yeah, like basically that's our challenge too. We want to hear it because I can't do a British accent to save my life. So
I think that's all Americans just across the board, basically.
Although we'd love to try.
Yeah. We
really do. Okay, so there are a lot of discussions on the interwebs about this movie. So I figured we should go through a few of them and see if we agree with any of them or anything. Okay, so the first thing that people want to talk about is the gummy worms in the movie. What could be the significance? Because we see at the beginning of the movie, she steals gummy worms and her father says to her, you can't just take things, or you can't take things that are not yours. Something to that effect. And then at the end of the movie, when she is being interviewed about why everybody was murdered, she is seen chewing on gummy worms, acting like literally a sociopath.
Right.
So, do you think there's any significance to that, or do you think they're just gummy worms?
I honestly don't know, but if I were to guess, just randomly guess, I think because he said her father said she doesn't like gummy worms, I think it connects back to her mother somehow, whether it's her mother's favorite treat or something, where they did that together for a movie night or something.
Okay.
So it brings back nostalgia, and she's doing it not because she likes them or dislikes them, but because it brings back memories.
Okay. That makes sense. I'll buy that.
Takes her back to a time before she killed 10 people.
So do you want to know what the internet thinks?
Okay.
So the internet believes that the gummy worms are basically a symbol that she didn't snap or anything like that she was always a sociopath. And the reason that they say that is because at the beginning of the movie, she is seen taking what's not hers and what she doesn't even like. And then throughout the movie, you see her taking and keeping the key, which is not hers, and she knows nothing about, and then kills everybody for it. We can say if she did that or didn't do that.
Well, it's more hers than the guy's, because it was her dad's house.
Well, so debate can be debate, but regardless, she kills everybody for it, and then at the end is seen eating gummy worms again that she doesn't like while holding a key that is not hers, and it's like she was actively the whole movie just doing what she could to get what she wanted rather than any altruistic reason.
I mean, I like my answer better.
I mean, I like your answer better, but I can also understand where they're coming from.
I think mine's more plausible as well, but sure.
Well, sure. Fine.
All right. I will concede that it's theoretically possible. So I'd like to ask you about the key. What the hell does it open?
That key is... Do you remember, I don't even remember what movie it is, but we saw a movie, and at the end of the movie, this house went up in flames, and you never find out if the kid gets out alive. And we left the movie going, but you have to know that this is the key in this movie. It's like, you leave the movie going, I'm sorry, what? I wanted to rewind and be like, did I miss something? What's going on?
It's done intentionally, and the only other movie that I can think of that does a similar thing is Ronin with... I think it's Robert De Niro.
Okay.
Where there's a briefcase. The whole movie is about basically a briefcase, and you don't know what's in it.
Ever?
The whole movie, it ends without you looking inside the briefcase. And it's such a tease, the whole damn movie.
So, do you think that this is setting up for a sequel, or...
No, I think it's just... The imagination is more powerful than what they could have shown on screen.
So, if you had to guess what the key was, what would you say? So the context clues we have, it has the same triangular pattern as the
tattoo.
As his tattoo. We have a context clue that he says to Kayla, I believe the mother, that this is going to help my race as much as yours.
Right.
And I think that's the only context clues we get.
Yeah, there's no real plausible explanation that would maybe Nazi gold reserves in Switzerland or somewhere. There's no answer.
No, there's not. And Kevin James says at one point that they've been working for years for this. Yeah. And, you know that it has something to do with white supremacy because...
He's a racist piece of garbage.
Right. But, like, I start thinking, I go down the Charles Manson route and think, like, oh, what is it? Like, records of, like, the Beatles or something? Like, what is it? Like...
There's no good answer. I mean, there's no... It's definitely done as a intentional thing, but it's falls flat because there's nothing that the key can open that makes sense of
what happened.
What happened?
No.
Other than an ungodly sum of money, and it's a heist movie, really. But
then the whole white supremacy thing is pointless, and there's no they literally threw it in there for shock value, and there was no other reason.
Yeah, basically, yeah. There's no good answer.
Yeah, so basically, if there is going to be a sequel and it comes out that it was just money, I'm gonna be hella mad. I'm just saying, because like now we have unnecessary violence and unnecessary white supremacy.
Yeah,
like not that white supremacy is ever validated, but I want the.
Oh no, I think that's entirely fair to say that white supremacy is a garbage doctrine that has no merit, and those people should be silenced by any means possible.
I agree with that, but I want for a movie there to be a purpose that at least connects to what you've created, not just... It doesn't have to be a good purpose. It needs to be connected.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, okay. Now, since you brought up the key, do you think that Becky cared about the key this whole time?
I personally think after her father was shot, it's I care to spite you now. I'm going to make sure that you never get what you want because fuck you.
Well, we've just now had to make this not for kids, but okay. Not that we were gonna.
It's never for kids when you're dealing with Nazis.
No, it's not. Okay, but there's one point that I didn't notice while watching the film, but was pointed out by Internet Sleuth. The key was on a chain that was very clearly made by a child. It was like colorful. It was like a string type.
It was like a ribbon necklace kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. So was it Becky's? Did she make that chain?
She probably found it in the house that her parents owned and decided it was her secret key.
You don't think she knew what it was?
No. I mean, unless there was something on the property that it would open, which would make no sense, then there's no way for her to figure out what the key goes to.
I'm just curious what you think, because I literally cannot fathom what this could be, and I also cannot understand if she did know what the key was going to. What could a 13-year-old girl have in common with a convict white supremacist man that they both want the same thing?
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. I can't.
Well, exactly. There's no way that she could have known what the key goes to because there's nothing that she could open at the house with the key.
That's how I feel too.
So
okay. So I want to talk a little bit about Apex and just kind of Becky overall. I have Kayla and the kid written down as well because... So the question becomes, is Becky a sociopath or was she protecting her family? And so these three characters, for me, lead to one answer, but I think we might have different opinions. So I'll start with Apex because I think he's the most controversial on the internet, and I don't agree with the internet, so here we are. So if you haven't seen the movie, Apex is the basically head henchman, I guess you'll say. He's the
number 2. He's the second in command. And
he's obviously the one that, without him, nothing can be carried out. Right. This dude is a brick house, and he's the muscle. Okay, that's he doesn't speak much. He's not the brains of the operation. He's the muscle. Okay. So from the get in this movie, you realize that he is not okay with killing children. You can see that right off the bat when he kills the first family in the car. He's uncomfortable. He's upset. Yeah. And then right at the beginning of the invasion, he tries to let Kayla and her son go. So you already know that, okay, he's going to be the one that turns. There's always someone that turns. And his character is probably the only one you see develop in this movie. So his character goes from complete loyalty to Kevin James to realizing that this is not what he wants to do. He does not want to hurt kids. He's making a mistake, and he basically says, hopefully I can atone for my sins by letting you go to Becky.
Yeah.
So...
Well, he basically says, it's too late for me. I'm a monster, but there's still time for you. Even though you've done some bad things, get out while you can.
Yeah.
Which shows some awareness on his part that the things he's done are horrible.
Right.
And he needs to become a better person.
Right. So, the internet says that because he was a white supremacist in this culty thing, and he was doing Kevin James's bidding, that he's irredeemable, that nothing he said matters, and that he was probably just manipulating her anyway, and he was going to end up killing the rest of the family anyway, and he's a horrible person, and he deserved to die, because, spoilers, Becky does kill him, even though he, from what we can see in the movie, had no intention of hurting her. He was actually helping her.
Right. He left her.
He said he was done, and he literally left.
He was done, and he walked away, and then he came back and saved her. And then she shoots him in the head.
While he's kneeling on the ground, basically begging her for forgiveness.
Yeah. Saying, I'm sorry for what happened.
Yes.
So, I very much disagree with that narrative. I took it as more she's becoming the monster that the movie is about. Because she's now killing people just to kill people.
And I mean, that makes sense with the whole, when they were paralleling at the beginning of the movie, the prison versus her life, and then they were paralleling at the end. That makes sense that she's becoming the monster. Like, I can see that.
Well, also, for that death, it's the only death that she doesn't go out of her way to horribly kill the person. Like, she stabs a guy with a ruler repeatedly, runs over a guy with a boat propeller, runs over Kevin James with a lawnmower.
Right.
After blinding him in one eye and lighting him on fire. And then she just shoots him in the head, and that's the movie.
Right.
So that's just an out of character thing where she's just killed him to kill him at that point.
Right. She just did because she could.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel that because he was a white supremacist that he deserved it?
I mean, he did some horrible things where he definitely deserves death or imprisonment. He killed an entire family after escaping from prison and killing several people to do that. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with him being shot. I don't have indignation or outrage that he died, but...
I literally wrote down, killing Apex makes her irredeemable. Because to me, the way I felt about this is, while, yes, he is a horrible, awful, disgusting person for what he did, there's a few things that are going on here. One, he was clearly part of a cult. This is like a whole Charles Manson situation again. Very clearly. He was clearly very... manipulated by the want for a family type unit, very clearly. And you can put somebody in jail and let the law take care of something, and that can be something you do. But as a 13-year-old girl, this man did nothing to her other than help her towards the end. Yes.
Oh, he did punch her in the chest once.
Okay.
And punch her dog in the face.
He did punch her and all of that. He did do that. But that's still enough to send him to jail. But for the most part, everything he did in her world, only her world, she doesn't know anything else.
Right.
In her world alone, did not justify killing him. So
correct. I will agree with you on that.
If she had known all of his priors and all of that and knew like everything about him, then maybe. But I don't know the 13-year-old girl can shoot someone in the head because you think he's a bad person and he's associated with bad people. I think that's what the cops are for. So
well, you don't get to play judge, jury, and executioner. We have a legal system to send him to prison for the things that he has done.
Right, and I'm pretty sure the law would say she was not in immediate danger, so it's not self-defense.
Oh, she was definitely in immediate danger.
Not when she killed him.
Legally, yes. He's an enormous 7-foot-tall man.
He was kneeling, apologizing. That's not immediate danger. I can claim I'm in immediate danger.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm in immediate danger right now, then. Okay? Is that what we're going to do?
You are 100% able to legally claim immediate danger, given that he was in a gang that had killed your father. Legally speaking, no jury is going to prosecute or convict you.
And that's what's wrong with the system. Okay, all right. Like,
in that circumstance, what really happened, yes, it was indefensible to shoot him because he had a change of heart. But there's no way that she's not going to get away with it. And she did it.
And it's not okay to kill someone just because you can get away with it. I want to make that clear.
I agree with you on that. We watched How to Get Away with Murder, and we've been watching that recently. There's no justification other than self-defense that would explain reasonably killing another person.
Right. And legally or not, she was not defending herself. No. So I just want to be clear. Okay. So there's two other characters here that also speak to her character.
Yeah.
Kayla and Kayla's son. I, don't have his name because they don't really say his name very often. But regardless of the fact.
Ty.
Kayla and Ty. Okay, so we do see that Kayla, the mother, is, while, Becky has been horrible to her and has not accepted her, Kayla still acts as a mother. She still protects her. She still tries to keep the bad guys away from her. She for everything you can say, she was a good mother-like figure, right?
Yeah.
Even though Becky probably didn't deserve it. But would you say that Becky was in any way trying to protect them? Kayla and Ty, not her father.
No, not really. I mean, the mother says it, well, you've done it now. She's the most spiteful, mean person that I've ever met, and you just killed her father. You're screwed. She says that in the movie. Right. She knows that Becky doesn't care about people.
And is that a character that we should be rooting for? I just...
Well, there's not a whole lot of redeemable characters in this movie. I mean, the mother does a very good job of protecting her son.
And Becky.
And Becky. Because I don't know if it's necessarily maternal instincts. For her son it is. But it might partially be that she's scared of what will happen if she doesn't for Becky.
Yeah, she could be afraid that Becky will turn on her.
Becky will turn, and she will remember that.
Right. Now, if Becky had, at some point, I don't know, saved Ty, okay? So maybe not the mother, because I can understand that's a harder thing to get through. But a kid is a kid, right? You're not going to harbor anger towards a kid. So if something had happened and Becky had saved him for whatever reason, I think I would have felt a little bit more that Becky was doing this as defending her family. But she literally didn't even seem to check on them. She came in and looked in the window a few times to find where they were so she could kill them.
Yeah.
But she didn't seem to care for them. She didn't seem to even ask about them. She asked about her father, but she never seemed to even make mention. And then at the end of the movie, when Kayla and Ty came to sit with her at the end and check on her, she didn't even speak. She just kind of looked at them like, I guess it's good you made it out. She didn't seem to care. She didn't hug them. She didn't nothing. I mean, even if you don't like somebody, you guys just went through a life-threatening experience. You don't hug them. You don't cry. You don't anything. You
definitely, if you're a normal person, you have a breakdown afterwards, and you just collapse into a pool of your own feelings.
Or at the very least, you look relieved when you see them and know, okay, they made it. She looked nothing. It was almost like they were strangers. She didn't even know them, and they came and sat down. That made me hate her even more.
Well, that, I think, is pushing more at the narrative that she became the monster. She is a serial killer. She will now kill more people at some point in the future, likely.
Now, do you, because of that, think that she deserved to die? That maybe she should have been the one killed at the end rather than Apex?
I don't think that either necessarily deserved to die. I mean, her killing him pushes her past the point of no return. Because up until that point, you can make a reasoned argument that every other person needed to have died.
Okay, I mean, give or take one of the henchmen who was just telling her to throw the key out the window, and he literally was going to walk away.
He shot her dog. That's inexcusable, and
it is inexcusable. But also, he was not going to hurt her. I
don't care. You need to die. You shot a dog. You die. Those are the rules.
There's a lot of moments in this where it was she wasn't in imminent danger, and she did a lot of things that you're just okay. But also, I'm just going to say this for the record, and this has nothing to do with her, really. But for the love of God, people in movies, go to the neighbors. You were not seen. No one knew you were even on the property. You knew that. You checked and you saw that you were not noticed. You could have, it was a mile away. You 13-year-old girl who just killed a bunch of men. You can't run a mile to help your family. That's because you didn't want to. You wanted to kill those people. You didn't want to get help. That's how I feel.
It would have taken you, what, maybe 10 minutes to go a mile?
And you don't have to come back. It's not like you have to run both ways. You run, you call 911, and you wait at the neighbor's house until the cops get there. Are you kidding me right now? No.
Yeah, the cops will literally drive you back after they arrest everybody.
Right. So, girl, you just killed a bunch of men. I know you are agile enough to do that. So, no, you wanted to kill those people. I'm just saying. Anyway, okay, we're going to get into the craziest conspiracy theory, okay? Okay, so there is a conspiracy theory on the internet that there is white supremacy in Becky and what's Joel McHale's character's name? Jeff's family. Okay, so what they say is that the reason that Becky and Jeff were so protective of the key and why they didn't want to give it over to the goons or whatever you want to call them is because there was white supremacy in their family. Jeff was trying to turn over a new leaf, but Becky was so upset that he would bring, I guess, black
minorities
people.
into the family.
I guess we can say just black people into the family, that she was so angry about it that she was going to keep on that white supremacy front. That's why she was a horrible person. That's why she was killing. That's why she didn't care about all of them. And that's why she cared so much about the key. Whatever it was making her feel proud of her culture and her Arian whatever we're going to go with. And that Jeff he still had that tie in him, even though he was trying to turn over a new leaf, and that's why he was so protective of it.
So I don't think he was protective of it at all. I think he was protective of his daughter. Like, I can understand wanting to make sure your family is safe. That's just the easiest thing in the world to understand. That's not... I don't even know if he knew about the key, honestly. And I throw this out on its face because it's ridiculous.
I mean, I agree it's ridiculous. I don't think we mentioned that the internet was also very upset about the fact that he told her to run.
I can't understand that at all because that's exactly what you do if you're a father, mother, close family, like brother, sister. Like you look out for them. Like that's...
Right. I literally the whole time when he was being tortured said if he does not tell her to run, he is a bad dad. That's unequivocal. Like you do not save yourself before you save your child. You just don't do that. Also,
go get the police because that's the best hope that we have. Like if you go to the police...
That's the biggest plot hole in this whole thing.
If you go to the police, they can't stay because what are they going to do? Keep you as hostages? Okay. Still not going to work. It never works.
Right. Okay, so you say no white supremacy. So what's the excuse for the key being in their house?
My thought is that the white supremacists owned the property before they went to prison, and then Jeff bought the house, not knowing.
But he's had it for a while. They've used that house for the whole time Becky's been growing up, so it's 13 years.
Well, they went to prison for more than 10 years.
That we assume, because they broke out, so we don't know how long they were in prison.
Well, exactly. They said something like 9 or 10 years there, so, I mean, it's entirely possible that he didn't know when he bought the house.
Okay. I mean, I can go with that.
That seems way more plausible to me than he happened to be a closet Nazi.
I would tend to agree. The one thing that they point to as the reason why is that apparently there is a part in the movie where Becky is drawing in her notebook and she draws an S, which is some kind of a Nazi symbol. It looks also like a lightning bolt.
Well, the SS is the lightning bolts. Yeah.
Yes. And she's drawing that in her notebook, and they're saying that points to the fact that there's white supremacy in their family.
I mean, I didn't see that point. Maybe I would feel differently if I had seen that, but...
So what's going to happen is after the podcast, we're going to look it up because he's going to be annoyed if he doesn't see it. So
oh, yeah.
If he changes his mind, I will tweet out that he has changed his mind. But anyway, that is that. So do you have some History Minute for us?
Tyler's History Minute.
I have a few.
Ooh.
Although
all right.
They're not terribly uplifting given the nature of this movie.
Well, we kind of knew that was going to happen.
So I was going to talk about the history of the American Nazi Party.
Oh, joy. I've always wanted to learn about that.
And the Arian Brotherhood. Because we are just scraping the bottom of the barrel for the worst people in the world.
Yeah, okay, great. So it better be horrible things and nothing positive about them. Because if there's anything positive, I'm walking out.
So George Lincoln Rockwell, terribly ironic name, given that Lincoln is his middle name.
And Rockwell is like the treasure.
Norman Rockwell paints pictures of Americana. Yeah. Founded the American Nazi Party in 1959.
Horrible man.
Which is incredibly messed up, because 1959 is not far away from the end of World War II.
It's also not far away from when our parents was born.
Well, right, but World War II stopped in 1945, and then 15 years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Holocaust denier. Wonderful stand-up, horrible man. Blamed civil rights movement on the Jews controlling the world. He was happily shot by a former member in 1967.
Well, that's the only uplifting thing I'll allow in this.
It's like Hitler did one good thing. He shot himself. Like, there's no
I'm
good
glad
thing.
that this is on a recording. This is good. Great. We're going to be on a list.
Probably. So, changing gears a little bit, there is... I want to talk about the Arian Brotherhood, reluctantly. They were founded in 1964 in San Quentin Prison. And they're the predominant white gang in American prisons these days, unfortunately.
They still exist?
Oh, yes.
I was really hoping that it was like a thing of the past and that they were just bringing it
unfortunately,
up for a
both
movie.
the American Nazi Party, the Arian Brotherhood, the KKK, they all still are around. And they all need to die. Preferably in fire. I really don't care how they die, honestly, but they just need to stop being a thing. Lastly is the Volk Knot, which is the symbol on the key. Mm-hmm. It's the three interlocking triangles, or two interlocking triangles. Three. It's tied to Norse mythology, and specifically Odin, who lost an eye, which is why they probably had that scene in the movie in the first place.
Yeah, but it's different than what actually happened, right?
So Odin had to sacrifice something precious to become so wise. So he's the head of all of Norse mythology. He's kind of like similar to Zeus in terms of he's the boss.
Okay.
So he was given a choice to either sacrifice something important to him or not have access to the Tree of All Knowledge, or some thing where he gets incredible knowledge.
Okay.
So he pulled out his own eye. And it's also linked to the Arian Brotherhood because they have a lot of ties to Norse mythology, because people from Scandinavia happen to be all white, and they just assume that relates to them in any way, which is dumb and
makes no sense. But okay, sure, right. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, so that's what I got, because it's horrible and there's no redeeming quality for anyone in the American Nazi Party or the Arian Brotherhood, the KKK, any racist group. They should all stop being alive.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I still believe in redeeming people, but you know.
Yeah, you can redeem them by shooting them.
Okay. Anyway, I don't subscribe to violence, so let's move on. Okay, so we have audience ask.
Audience asks.
Now, I will say that I'm pretty sure that most of our listeners have not seen this movie. Okay?
Well, that's true for every movie we do, basically.
Yeah. So, Batman and Robert said, does the key that Kevin James was looking for open the briefcase from Pulp Fiction? And go.
No. It also doesn't open the briefcase from Ronin.
So what was the briefcase from Pulp Fiction? I don't
think... It's the same concept. It's you never get to see what's inside, and it's a mystery.
Okay, so we just don't know. It's a whole connection thing. Yeah. This is like the theory that because the name of the father in this is Jeff, which is Joel McHale's character, that it's a continuation of him in Community because his name is also Jeff in that.
Well, it's one of those things where it's an unseen mystery connection. That's the only connection.
Yeah. So So no. We're just
no, it does not.
Yeah. Too bad, though. Okay, the Contrarians. So I have not seen the movie they're referring to, so maybe you have. But first thing they ask is the Kevin James as a neo-Nazi? Is this the Kevin James movie as a neo-Nazi? So yes, Contrarians, yes, this is. He says, is it more believable than him marrying Winona Ryder in The Dilemma? I have never even heard of that movie.
Me neither, honestly.
What's funny to me is Winona Ryder is actually somebody we mentioned in, I think, Uncle Buck about the angsty teen, believing that she should be the angsty teen. Yeah. And now she's coming back in this episode. But, so I have not seen Dilemma. But I'm pretty sure that's quite a large age gap. But maybe not. How old is Winona Ryder? Isn't she our age? Hold on.
Kevin James isn't that old. He's, what, 40?
I think he's our parents' age. So Winona Ryder is 48.
Kevin James is...
I thought Winona Ryder was our age. Kevin James is 55. Okay, so that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Is that more just the looks? Winona Ryder is more attractive than Kevin James? Or
King of Queens, his wife is beautiful.
Well, that's what I was... Like, you see that all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. Usually in relationships, one of them is more attractive and the other one, not so much. It's not usually like two super attractive
Kevin James as the Nazi is less believable. Has to be.
You think it's less believable as him as a Nazi than him marrying Winona Ryder?
I think it's more likely that he would marry Winona Ryder.
Okay, yes.
So it's less likely for him to be a Nazi.
Yeah, it
less
is more
believable
likely. Yeah.
that he is a Nazi.
Now, we're saying that in the full knowledge that we have no idea what that movie is. So I'm going to be watching a trailer as soon as this is over because I have no idea. But from age and looks alone, I don't see any reason why they can't be married. Yeah. So I'm actually happy that it's an older woman with a man rather than this whole trope of it's going to be a 50-year-old man with a 20-year-old woman and we're just all okay with that and we just think that's just perfectly okay. I'm happy it's not that. So
like the other woman where she asks the woman that's older than her to call her mom. Because she's 20 and married her father. Like,
yeah, and there's a new movie that just came out with Amanda Seyfried, something like that, from Mamma Mia. And I don't remember who the male actor is, but he is definitely her senior by a lot. And I'm just like, we're just cool with this now. Like, we're just, okay, that's what we're doing now. But anyway, okay, so that was the audience ask questions. It's very clear that you guys haven't seen it. So watch it. It's on demand, Amazon Prime. Not saying I recommend it. I'm just saying if you're bored.
Yeah.
So, do you want to get into your ratings?
Reviews.
Certainly. So Rotten Tomatoes has it at 69 and the audience score of 66. So fairly consistent. I'm a little bit higher on that. I mean, I'll give it a 7.
Okay. And what's your reason?
I mean, it's reminds me of Home Alone with actual real consequences because they get hit in the head with paint cans, that would kill them.
Now, does this remind you of Home Alone because we just talked about Macaulay Culkin in the Uncle Buck episode? Is that why we're here? Because I haven't seen anybody else reference Home Alone except for you for this movie.
Well, it's a kid that gets revenge on people that broke into her house. How is that?
Okay, all right. And they do it in kiddish ways. I mean, the pencils and the ruler and the...
I mean, yeah, it's...
Okay, I was curious.
Like, they get lit on fire in Home Alone and nothing happened. Like, they would have died. Horribly died in Home Alone if it was an actual real movie. I did like that. I did like the kind of little twist at the end where she became the monster, which is a nice kind of...
Hopefully that was the intention.
Hopefully that was their intention because that's the only message that I got from this movie. I mean, acting was okay. There wasn't any good or bad acting that I noticed. There's no good or bad soundtrack that I really noticed either. So, yeah, 7. 7 seems reasonable given that it's
Okay. I was going to give it a 5. So for me, there was no character development except for the person who died, and so it felt like pointless character development.
Yeah.
I didn't get behind the main character at all. I couldn't find a reason to side with her. The only character I cared about was, Joel McHale until he died, and then Kayla, but she had no real role. And there was no soundtrack. There was no purpose because we don't know what the key is. We also don't know why they're neo-Nazis. We have no, context to anything. There's no context to anything. So I felt like the whole time I was going, why? I have no reason to sit here and watch this because there's no purpose to anything. It's just violence for violence. So that's not my thing. So I will say that for the most part, it didn't. I was going to say it passed the Bechdel test, but it didn't.
Definitely
It didn't because she doesn't even talk to Kayla. So no, it doesn't even pass the Bechdel test. She's a strong female character, but she is not likable, and that's just...
I mean, she has this moments with her mother, but there's no talking.
Not really. I think there might be minor talking, but I wouldn't count it as passing. So yeah, there's nothing redeemable.
Huge missed opportunity that I forgot to mention as well.
Which is?
So the dogs, they shouldn't have shot the first dog, obviously. And I would have liked to see the dogs play a part in murdering Kevin James. Like at the end of the movie, in the minivan, instead of getting bit on the arm, they eat his face.
Yeah, I could have gotten behind that.
I think they probably didn't do that because of Game of Thrones. They had already done a dog eating thing. So they probably didn't want to repeat it, but it just would have been a better ending to Kevin James to get eaten by dogs after he criticized them. Karma.
I could get behind that. Yeah, there wasn't anything else for me to get behind. The only reason I'm even giving it a 5 is because, I mean, I appreciated seeing Kevin James in a role that he isn't normally in, and as well as Joel McHale. I didn't think the acting was bad. I just didn't care. So.
It's kind of blah. It was like the whole movie was, it's a movie.
Yeah, it's not a movie I would watch again.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But it was a new movie, and it was available on demand, so we didn't have to go to the theaters and get Corona. So, there's that. Anyway, anything else you want to say?
I think that's everything. Yeah.
So, next week, we are going to be doing The Suffragettes. So, this is a movie that's new to me. I picked it because a lot of times Tyler will pick, history-type movies where we focus on male characters and their story. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of movies out there that focus on women and their story with history basis. So this was one that I found that's relatively new that looked really interesting, and I figured you would be interested in it. And
I was totally interested from the trailer, so it's right up my alley.
I'd never even heard of it before, so I figured why not put it on the list. So that's going to be next week's movie. I'm kind of excited about it. Hopefully it's a good movie and it's not like, I'm all pumped up for nothing.
And then we will do a lighthearted movie after that, I hope.
Yeah, we're gonna need a little bit of a break because that was a lot of stuff. So we'll have a little. bit of a break.
Uncle Buck was an uplifting movie.
Yeah, but these two are.
Yeah.
So we'll have a break after that. But anyways, if you guys want to talk to us outside the podcast, I am on Twitter, Cinematically C, and Tyler is on Twitter, Blame Tyler CC. You can tweet at us. We do audience asks sometime on the weekend, although it's been later and later because I am horrible at Twitter. And
blame Shay, not blame Tyler.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I take full blame for that. But if you have not seen our audience ask, but you still have a question or a topic you want us to cover on the Suffragettes, just tweet it at me. I will take a screenshot and I will make sure that we cover it. We do 2 a week, usually, sometimes more if there are more interesting ones that we want to talk about. You can email us cinematicallycorrect@gmail.com. We are on pretty much every social media. If you look up Cinematically C, you can find us. But yeah, I think that's everything. So thank you to Jake at Athos Music for our intro and outro music, and we'll be back next week with The Suffragettes.
Thank you all for listening.